welcome back to the GM Outlet YouTube channel. Today is another very cool episode. We are going to check out Jacob's 1967 El Camino, which was owned by his late friend Aaron. And once Aaron passed, he took possession of the car, did a revival on it, drove it on a road trip down the coast, which is super cool, and ultimately LS swapped it with a 6-liter with 243 heads. I seen it at Caffeine and Octane here in Atlanta, where I met Jacob. We got to talking, and I told him, man, I'd really love to do an episode on it because I really think you guys would enjoy looking at it, checking it out with me. It's a very cool car, which also has a lot of sentimental value and a really cool backstory, which we'll get to when we meet up with Jacob. Once my wife gets back with PETA from the grocery store. She likes to take it out and take it for a drive, which is super cool. I guess the Suburban's not doing it, but we're going to be getting rid of it anyways. You guys want to see something pretty neat? Check this out. This is I can't remember the year. It's like a 03 or 04 Trailblazer. My brother-in-law owns it now, but what's interesting about this car is that I bought this car for $400, and all it needed was some coils. I got it in North Carolina for $400 and brought this thing back here to the house, put new coils in it, and it ran and drove great. But the whole reason I bought it was to LS swap it and kind of make like a Trailblazer SS replica, not like body wise, just have a badass, 5.3 in here, and kind of, it's a rear wheel drive truck, so that was kind of cool. But the interior is all black leather seats, black carpet, electric everything, heated seats, black dash. I mean, it's just all black inside, so it's kind of cool. I don't know, let's see how dirty it is. Yeah, it's kind of dirty, a little dirty. It's my brother-in-law's car. So he bought it a while back ago, but it was a really cool project at the beginning that I wanted to do. Just never ended up doing anything with it and just selling it because he needed a daily driver, and it runs and drives great. So you can find good deals. Kind of going back to my truck engine episode. But yeah, once my wife gets here with PETA, we're going to head out and see Jacob. And I hope you guys enjoy the episode. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Let's get on with it. PETA is back. I am ready to go. She's dirty. Look at her. This plastic thing came off when I was doing a delivery. And what do y'all think about the stickers, huh? I'm sure you guys can guess who made those for me. The beautiful wife. And now I gotta put my seat back. Gotta roll the window down because it's a work truck. Alright. Ooh, boy! That's what I'm talking about. Let's go see Jacob. Have a single cab, get yourself one. They're a lot of fun to drive around, man. Jacob owns Sally's Speed Shop in Noonan, Georgia, and he built it from the ground up, and he does a ton of different things over there. I've never been there, so I'm excited to go there and see what this place is like, see what other projects he has. Let's get over there and check it out, man. Sally's Speed Shop. Here's Jacob. So we're here to see this vehicle. Me and Jacob, like I mentioned earlier, we met at Caffeine and Octane. And,
last month sometime.
Yeah, last month sometime. Too many days have gone by. Are you going again?
Yeah, in theory, I'm taking that truck that's sitting right there, and that's 7 days from now?
Right.
It's in pieces. That's just the usual around here.
Yeah. So, and that's actually, I've looked at that truck. We'll take a gander at it. But that's a pretty solid truck too, man. I mentioned it on my intro, what the car really represents, which is a lot of sentimental value to you, and I'm sure his family and other people. And there's articles on this car. There's your YouTube channel, if you guys want to check out Sally's Speed Shop on YouTube. And there's an episode on the revival on this truck, or this car.
Car,
yeah.
Kind of both. Yeah, I have like 20-something, 30
on
episodes.
This,
no, just in general.
Okay, in general.
There's a couple on this car where we do a bunch of work to it. So
the revival video is really cool because that's what I enjoy is, driving around the country, and especially in LS stuff. So for me, it was a really cool episode. And there's something over here, this engine here, we'll talk about it in a little bit. That is probably, if this isn't the coolest, that's second in line because that's got a story that you guys probably already know about. Aaron had this and he loved this car, and tell us a little bit more about Aaron.
Yeah, so there was a friend of mine that I met back in 2016, 2017. I had known about him for a long time from mutual friends. One of the most talented people I've ever known, like engineer for like MIT and built self-driving cars, like really super smart dude. But he loved like the idea of roadkill and their adventures and stuff. And so he bought this car, I think, out of Arizona and took it up to where he lived in San Francisco, and then threw it together. It had an old 283 small block. It had a turbo 350. Somebody had gotten rid of the power glide.
Well, you didn't know which engine it was in the episode. Did you guys ultimately find out what it was?
Yeah, I had no idea initially. I ended up, when I swapped it, I pulled it out, and I could finally scrape off the grease to get to the numbers and be like, oh, it's a 283. But yeah, he threw it together and road tripped it down to Zip Tie Drags in 2017 for roadkill. And
is that similar to like Sick Week or?
Zip Tie Drags was an event at Tucson Dragway where basically you just brought out a bunch of roadkill style cars and drag raced them. Okay. And he drove it down from San Francisco. That was the first time I met him. I was moving to California. I was driving my piece of crap station wagon that I owned, and he just made a huge impression on me, and we became close and did a whole bunch of stuff together. And this was the car he was driving when I met him.
So you met him at Zip Tie?
Yeah, at the event. And we took a road trip back to California after that. And so I met him in this car. He had a lot of different projects, but this one is what I remember most. And he became really good friends with me. I spent a lot of time with him. And he unfortunately passed away in an off-road accident. Yeah. And, you don't know what happens to all your stuff when that happens. It's part of life. It's unfortunate. But I was like, hey, to his family, I was like, if you ever sell the El Camino, let me know. Right. Because I just want to keep it around and remember it as Aaron's car. Right. And so I ended up waiting about 8 months. I finally got called by his family. They were like, hey, we want to sell you the car. And so I
What was interesting, and this is a question that I had for you, was where you went to pick up the car, was that at a racetrack?
Yeah, so another friend of ours, Colin Seabird, has a shop at Sonoma Raceway. And Colin used to work with Aaron a lot. Right. And so Colin kind of helped manage a lot of Aaron's estate. Okay. And so he had stored this at his shop for a while. So I flew up to, San Francisco, drove up to Sonoma, and the plan was to get this car going again. It hadn't run in like 2 years, and drive it back to LA. And so there was some wiring that was fried and a few things we had to do, but just a little bit of work, it fired up, and I drove it all the way from Sonoma, California down Highway 1. Right. So the Pacific Coast Highway right there.
It's a very good episode, by the way, so definitely check that out.
That was a very sentimental trip, and like it just felt so surreal to me to be in Aaron's car and know that now that I own it, I get to take care of it. It doesn't just become a car when it gets sold to somebody else. It's always going to be Aaron's car.
And that's... there's probably nothing better to you than getting into this car and knowing how much justice that you really have served the car and for Aaron, because there's a lot more history than just Aaron himself as to what this car has been through. I mean, how many states did you say this thing has been through?
I've been to probably 25 states in this car. I don't know how many tens of thousands of miles, more than I can count. The odometer doesn't work, so I have no idea.
Yeah, right.
But I've driven it all over, and we've done some really cool stuff. Like we LS swapped it the first time at LS Fest West in 3 days in the parking lot with Holly Performance, and I put 20,000 miles on that motor as it was with the 3-day LS swap.
At that point, was that 10 years ago, you said?
No, that was 2018.
2018.
So 4 years ago.
That was when the Terminator X system came out, right?
This was probably one of the first 10 cars to run with a Terminator X.
That's insane.
So it was really early, I had one of the first Terminator X's in this car.
So they said, hey, bring everything to LS Fest, and we're going to get you the sniper kit. Let's put it in there in the parking lot.
Yeah, so we literally road tripped it with the 283 under the hood, pulled the 283 out, swapped a $350. What I thought was a 5.3 turned out to be a 4.8. But
you got to be careful on what you're buying, guys.
It happened. I didn't care. It ran great. We put a cam in it and did the Terminator X, and it fired right up and ran great. And I drove it back from Las Vegas back to Los Angeles without even opening the hood.
So
after
3.5 hour trip, right?
Yeah, after a 3-day LS swap. So.
That's nuts.
And now we've gone through and made it nice.
You didn't even have to open the hood the whole time? Everything went well?
Didn't open the hood. I was doing like 90 miles an hour the whole time. Allegedly. I would never speed. Yeah, okay.
I got to watch what I'm doing when I'm recording while I'm driving.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I'm always in Mexico.
Exactly.
Right? You're always in Mexico. But this engine is not the 4.8 that was swapped out at LS Fest, which is freaking nuts, man. I mean, who LS swaps an El Camino, 67, right? El Camino.
67 El Camino.
At LS Fest. Like, that's the core.
I'm not a smart man, but I have a good time. But yeah, we had the 4.8 in there for a long time. I lost oil pressure. My valve seals came apart and went through the motor for some reason. Don't know why.
Wow.
Something weird happened. Yeah. But then I found this 6.0 out of a church van.
Right.
So it's an iron block, LQ4, and the top end was junk. Yeah. So it had broken rocker arms.
But that was from sitting, right?
Yeah, so I assume, being a church fan, they don't drive it very often. So it sits for a while, the lifters lose their prime, you fire it up, it starts hammering the valve train. So the top end was junk, but I had a good set of 799 heads. So we put 799 heads on a 6.0 to bump the compression up. And on paper, this combination with a sloppy stage 2 cam and... the Gen
Is that what it? I didn't know that's what it had in it. Okay.
So it's sloppy stage 2 cam. It's a Gen 3 block with Gen 4 rods and pistons. Like I said, on paper, it should make 500 horsepower at the crank. At the tire, probably 400.
There's so many naysayers out there when we're talking these combinations, and one of my favorite combinations is one Richard Holdner did, which is a LY6, a stock LY6.
Okay, yeah.
Sloppy stage 2 cam, headers, and the Holly system that he runs, right?
Yeah.
Now, of course, there's no accessories, but you're at 515 horsepower with a completely stock motor, basically, And I've been told a couple times, like, no, that's not possible. It's like, just go do the research, you know what I mean? This thing sounds amazing, and we're going to take it on a drive here in a minute, but for those of you guys that wonder what you can do with an LQ4 motor, this is a really good representation of what's possible. It looks expensive. The intake manifold is
like $600, so really not bad.
That's probably one of the most expensive parts on the motor, right?
Yeah, that's the fabricated sheet metal intake manifold from Sniper, and it's probably one of their cheaper manifolds, but I really like it. You get that low end torque, and it looks pretty nice in there too.
So other than that, it's a stock LQ4 motor with 799 heads, which you can pick up anywhere from $200 to $500 depending on the condition, and bump the compression up by doing that. And at that point, what you guys have is, in this case, a cammed LS2 iron block, right?
Yeah, essentially.
So this was a van motor at one point, you know what I mean?
It was literally in a church van.
So a lot of what I sell with the GM outlet are van motors. Probably about half of what I sell is accounted for as being a van motor. And this is why. Because I talk to customers all the time, Jacob, about whether or not a van motor is going to fit, and I have to explain to them.
Just the same as a regular LS.
What's it exactly? So,
I mean, technically, it's an LQ4, but we call all the iron blocks LSs still. So,
and this is why. Because at the end of the day, none of that matters. You can do whatever you want with it. It's just getting it right the first time.
And some people complain because, it's an iron block. Oh, it weighs a lot.
Yeah.
The real difference between an aluminum block and an iron block is only 100 pounds. And once you get down to the bare block, it's only 100 pounds. So it really isn't a big deal.
And sometimes I've even seen people weigh them down to like 85 pounds of a difference.
Yeah.
Because the webbing is different on one motor than the next and stuff like that. So, you know, unless you're building a Miata or a Z3 or, you know, some kind of two-door sports car, I guess, it really doesn't matter if, to me, 90 pounds is, I mean, that's the equivalent of a 9-year-old kid with you.
Yeah, essentially.
You know, like, is that going to
You don't fill up your gas tank all the way, it's the exact same.
It's the exact same thing. But iron, aluminum expands what, twice as much as iron does. So when you're looking at a big piston motor like a 6-liter or a 6.2, that's a big difference on expansion when you have a decent piston like that.
Well, these are way stronger too. So I have plans to put a turbo on this motor.
Right. So when I was at Caffeine and Octane, this is exactly how it was sitting. Jacob was over talking to somebody, and I walked up, and what I noticed immediately were the heads. I saw 799 over here in the corner, but I saw the Gen 3 plate. So I'm looking at a Gen 3 short block with Gen 4 style 243 799 heads. So whoever obviously knew whoever was doing whatever I was looking at knew exactly what they were doing here in the engine compartment. So at that point, that's when I started talking to Jacob, and I didn't even realize the sign on the side for Sally's Speed Shop. So we got to talking, and I got to figure out what this was, and I was heavily impressed because I talk to people every day about this stuff, and they're gaining the knowledge, and it's nice to see someone put that knowledge to work and create a budget version of an LS2 and really did a great job.
Yeah, anyone can go buy an expensive crate motor, find the $700 short block off Facebook Marketplace and throw in a set of heads you happen to have from another engine. That's a little cheaper. I still have a few grand in it with machine work and the cam and gaskets and stuff, but I have a Gen 3 block with Gen 4 rods and pistons, so it's ready for a turbo. Because this motor was actually remanufactured by GM in 2012. So I assume when they remanufactured it, they just used Gen 4 rods and pistons because that's what they had on the shelf.
Right, that's all they had.
So it's an interesting, weird block. It has that plate on the side that says it was remanufactured in 2012.
I was going to ask you that, yeah.
It's really a weird one. Like, you can't just go buy this exact setup. I kind of got lucky when I opened it up. I was like, oh, sweet, Gen 4 rods. Like, that's awesome.
And pistons, it's a very unique combination. And like I said, you can't just pick it up anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, so.
But even if you did have a Gen 3 block, you could still put Gen 4 rods and pistons in it as an upgrade and get it balanced. But
you're going turbo anyways.
Yeah, exactly. So. You don't need a bunch of compression when you're going for a turbo.
And you got plenty of room in here.
I think it'll fit nice right here.
You're going to do a single turbo?
I think so. I think one big single. But
well, it's a 6-liter, so it'll push it really well.
Yeah, let's give you a quick walk down of what's actually in this car. So, like I said, we got the iron block LQ4 up here. It's run on Holley Terminator X. We've got the Holley Sniper intake manifold and all their fuel system. For suspension, we're actually running QA1 level 3 kit. So it's tubular control arms all the way around, adjustable in the rear. It's got double adjustable coilovers, so I can adjust compression and rebound.
Really?
So it looks like a beautiful El Camino. So QA1 Motorsports out of Minnesota. And we actually kind of R&D'd some parts and test fitted some new parts that nobody had used yet on this car. So I was their R&D because they knew I drove so much.
Right.
And the level 3 kit on this car is phenomenal. I mean, it's only got a 205 series front tire with a 15-inch wheel, and I cannot get it to understeer. It won't push the front.
Yeah, because that's not a wide tire at all.
No.
That's crazy.
So I have plans to upgrade the brakes soon because I just have a small Willwood brake in the front. It's about to get 6-piston bare brakes with a full floater 9-inch in the rear. Because right now it's a 308 rear gear. I need more gear, so I'm going to do a 370 and a 9-inch. And I don't want to blow up my 10-bolt again because I've blown it up a few too many times. But, yeah, it's going to get 370 with a 9-inch full floater hubs. It's going to be just stupid.
That's awesome.
And even with the 308, we ran... So my buddy Aaron always wanted to do like a drag and drive event. Right. So I put it together to run Sick Week, and it ran a 12.8 with a 308 rear gear. So it's pretty peppy for what it is.
Because that's a really long gear. Like, I think that has 342s in it. And I can do over 100 in third gear. Yeah. You know, on a 4L60.
So I got 308s. And I didn't even mention the transmission. I have a Turbo 350 TCI Street Fighter. So a lot of people, they also think they need to swap the trans when they do an LS swap. Well, you can actually bolt an old school Turbo 350 up to them. And so turbo 350, and I actually have a gear vendor behind it for overdrive.
That's insane.
So it's got some good parts in it.
Yeah, for sure.
It just looks like a beautiful El Camino, and I use it as a shop truck because I have my own speed shop.
Yeah, I want to show you guys this. I didn't know this at all. I'm sure a lot of you guys don't know this, and maybe some of you that do. But being an 8-body car, based off what, the Chevelle, right?
Yeah, so it's the same as the Chevelle, but it just has a truck bed. But rather than making an all-new floor pan, they actually used the stock floor pan for a Chevelle to here, and then capped it. And so I turned mine into a little storage area. As you can see, I got spare parts and stuff.
You just added the hinge?
Yeah, I just added the hinges and the latches. And now I have a place to keep my tools when I'm on a road trip.
That is insane.
But yeah, I use this thing as a shop truck. I've had LS engines in the back. I've hauled stuff in the machine shop, and it's a really good work truck. It's got a fully boxed frame compared to the Chevelle, which has a C-channel frame.
Which is nice, right?
And yeah.
I mean, you guys had the 4.8 in here. Did you, when you swapped the 4.8 in the parking lot, did you do any transmission as well? Or?
No, we kept. That's why it has a turbo 350.
Okay.
I didn't want to do a transmission and engine swap at the same time in a parking lot. But I used the Terminator X Max, so if you did want to do that, it actually has transmission control.
For the 4L60 and the 4L80, right?
Yeah, because I knew I'm probably going to put a 4L80 in it eventually.
Right.
So I got that ECU with the transmission control if needed.
Can't beat that, man.
Yeah, it's been a great car. I mean, car, truck, whatever you want to call it. And like I said, I use it all the time as a shop truck. So Sally's Speed Shop, a lot of people wonder about that name.
I was going to ask you.
It's named after my grandma.
Okay.
Because when I was young, I would go to her house and use her garage and her driveway because it was nicer to work in.
That was the original Sally's Speed Shop.
And I always joked that I was heading over to Sally's Speed Shop. And so she's 88 years old. She's getting to watch it happen. And
that is so cool.
It's been pretty awesome.
Because this, I mean, not just the amount of work that you're doing in this shop, but the shop itself is insane.
Well, thanks.
So we'll take a look at it, I guess.
It's been a lot of work.
Yeah. So the first impression, which is always the most important, is beautiful. I mean, we're out here in Noonan. This is the country. I don't know if you guys have ever been through Noonan. It's not a whole bunch to look at, but I mean, having something out here in the woods essentially is so cool. It's peaceful. Birds and trees and wind.
You just hear the wind through the trees, and we just come back here and build hot rods.
This is nuts.
It's something I always wanted to do since I was a teenager, and so me and my dad literally built this shop ourselves from the ground up. 2 years ago, this was woods, and we cut down every tree and, did all the grading, and it was a lot of work.
It came out really well.
I thought cars were a lot of work. Then we built a building, and I was like, man, that's more work.
I'm not like a home improvement style guy by any means, and I hate mowing my grass. Anything like that's not a car, that's where I'm a procrastinator. But this thing is freaking awesome, man. If you guys follow Holly, or you follow Stacy, David, who else probably
it's
have
all over.
It's all over. So tell us about what's going on here.
So this is LM7. It's upside down on the table, so it's a little confusing to look at right now. But I'm figuring out my clutch setup, so it was a lot easier to just lay it on the table upside down. But we were on our way back from Caffeine and Octane in the El Camino, so we were driving.
This is the day that me and you met.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, is when you found it then.
Exactly.
Very cool.
And literally, we had turned around to look at something we had seen on the side of the road on the way up to the show, but we found this on the way to look at what we were actually looking for. So this motor, obviously, we've got a new oil pan on it, and the bell housing wasn't with it, but it was a complete oil pan to heads, even the coil pack still on it, LM7.
On the side of the road.
Sitting on the side of I-85. Somebody had pulled over, and it didn't look like it had been tossed out. It looks like somebody pulled over, dumped it out, and left. And we pulled over in the El Camino, and we're like, holy crap, it's a freaking LS on the side of the road. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't this nice. It was really dirty. It had been sitting outside for a couple years. It was rusty inside. But me and my dad literally got a piece of wood, and we opened the tailgate of the El Camino, and me and him literally rolled the engine up onto the tailgate by hand into the back of the car, and then drove to the shop.
And I'll post some pictures so they could see what happened.
And now we're building it to go in this truck.
Yeah.
So we're building a roadside service truck with a utility bed on it. And I figured, what better motor than to go in a roadside service truck than a motor you found on the side of the road?
Very true.
So it's getting the 5.3 with an SM465, so an old school granny gear gearbox. I kind of like the way it drives. It feels old school. And we're running Hot Rod Power Tour in this in 2 weeks.
Look forward to seeing that.
Will be done in 2 weeks?
Well, it's going to be done before then, right?
Yeah, I'm going to drive it next week. Maybe I'll find another motor.
Well, it's going to be, you know what's going to be sick is I'll see you there. I'll go just to see you in this truck.
Yeah, with how it looks now, it's looking a little doubtful, isn't it?
No, I got faith in you.
But
man.
I've been fortunate with what we're doing. We got a lot of great companies coming on board. So Holly, Auto Metal Direct. We've had DEI, Design Engineering Incorporated. That's all their heat shield.
Very cool.
Painless wiring, put a whole new harness in it. So there's a lot of really good.
You got some good support for sure.
Out.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't be able to do it without them. So.
It's going to be a really cool truck. One of my buddies has a shop in Columbus, Georgia, and he just finished an LS swap on a service truck, repainted it. They didn't nearly go at the extent of what you're doing here, but at first I was like, oh, okay, cool, you know, like an LS swap service truck. When it was done, I was like, this is the coolest thing in the world. Like, you know, you can carry whatever tools you want. You got the reliability and you got the old school factor all in one shot.
I was about to buy a new truck and I was like, I don't want to spend 50 grand on a truck. I was like, I'll just build one out of this piece of junk I have sitting around, and it's going to be a patina square body service truck. It'll be cool.
And you can use the crap out of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It'll be very user friendly. Get parts for it, easy to work on. So.
That's super cool. We got a 69 Camaro over here.
Yeah.
What year Ford?
66 F100, 70 Volkswagen Bug. So we do a little bit of everything.
Arctic Cat, you know?
Yeah, the four-wheeler.
You got to have the Arctic Cat. That is a 21,000 mile, original 21,000 mile LS1. Yeah. They do exist, I promise. I've sold one. He somehow found one. I don't know how he found it, but he found it out of a vet.
Yeah,
right?
Out of a wrecked Corvette.
Out of a wrecked Corvette with 21,000 miles on it.
I opened it up. It's the cleanest motor I've ever seen.
Show them the push rod.
Yeah. So like, you know, normally stuff is all oil soaked and gross.
Right.
So this is actually the camshaft and the push rods out of it. I mean, there's nothing on them. They're like super clean.
There's no wear on the ball ends.
Yeah. It's brand new motor, essentially.
Very cool.
Because this is what stuff normally looks like when it comes out of an engine. You touch it and your whole finger's covered in this brown goo.
And then this hasn't even been cleaned. This is exactly the way it was out, right?
Exactly.
Very cool.
It's got almost no corrosion on it. It's wild. It's a unicorn of a motor a little
Absolutely.
bit. But it's going in a 69 Camaro with a T56. The guy's going to drive it and enjoy it with his family. It was his high school car.
That was his actual high school car?
Yeah.
I love the history on some of these cars, especially this one. This thing has just got a ton of history between Aaron, between LS Fest and Holly teaming up with you.
Power Tour.
You did it before in this?
Yeah, the 25th anniversary, we actually drove this from California to Hot Rod Power Tour.
That is so freaking cool.
It was all stickered up. I was working at Hot Rod Magazine at the time. So it used to say Hot Rod Magazine down the side, and 25th anniversary Hot Rod Power Tour.
That's nice.
You can see the old fenders outside. They still have the Hot Rod stickers on them. So
very cool.
It's got some stories. I've done some stuff. So
it's a super cool car. I mean, not and like Jacob was saying, he's like, yeah, it's not the cleanest. I'm like, man, far beyond whether or not it's clean or not, this is super cool. Like the cool factor outweighs, in my opinion, whether or not any car's clean, not just this one, you know? So like for PETA, that thing's got a rusted bed, but I enjoy the crap out of it. It's a cool truck to me.
I'm a sucker for a good story, so I get it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, PETA, if you guys remember, I bought that truck for $1,500. You cannot find a single cab new body style for $1,500 in any condition.
You can't find anything for $1,500.
I sold a parts truck with a cab and a title, same exact truck for more than what I bought that truck for.
That's wild.
No engine, no front clip.
So you did all right.
I mean, yeah, it's
I will say we did well. We got this for $1,500, and you can't buy a square body for anywhere close.
Good luck, right? So we're gonna get a start on this thing. I actually recorded going for a ride, but we've beaten the crap out of this thing twice, and both times on slow mo. So. This thing is sick. Let me tell you, it's freaking sick. We went on a drive on this curvy road up here, and man, this thing handles like a vet, like really like a vet would, with all the QA1 suspension, everything that's been done in this double adjustable coilovers, right?
Yeah.
Both front and back.
Yeah, front and back. So you can really dial it in.
This thing is absolutely insane, you guys. Absolutely insane.
So it kind of just looks like a beat up of El Camino, but you didn't get to see the video of it driving, but it's pretty amazing to drive, and you could throw it into a corner, no drama. It doesn't make any tires squeal, and that's only with a 205 on the front.
I mean, we hit, in Mexico, we hit, what, triple digits, right?
Thereabouts. On a 2-lane country road.
On a 2-lane country
It's
road.
curvy and hilly. And
Yeah, it is,
with a bench seat and lap belts.
to say the least, it's an experience. And like I said, it handles like a vet, like a modern vet. It's insane to feel the weight transfer the way it does in this car at those speeds with that power. That whole combination is just nuts. And I'm sorry, you guys, I recorded it in slow motion. It was
his face in sheer terror, probably.
the lap belts is what got me, you know, it's the lap belts. Jacob's killing it out here at this speed shop. So you guys check out his channel, Sally's Speed Shop on YouTube. Ton of content.
Yeah, if you need an LS swap or QA1 suspension, I can hook you up.
Everything from revival videos on there. You got shop videos.
Yeah, so not only do we revive cars that sat for a long time, we've done a lot of road trips.
We find LSs on the side of the road.
Yeah, building the shop has been a thing, so.
This is so cool.
So my fan is connected directly to my battery with a temperature sender, so it'll cool itself off as it sits here.
I have this, so I have the, do you have it in the head? Is
mine's actually on a radiator hose.
Okay.
I have a little adapter.
I have one that I'm not utilizing in the backside of the head.
Okay.
You know, the extra port.
It just comes in handy. I love not having the complication of the ECU turning the fans on. It just works.
Well,
Keep it simple, stupid. You said that earlier.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in that. This car has a lot of really good parts under it, but it's simple.
And then you could drive this anywhere in the country.
Oh yeah, it's been California to Georgia, Georgia to Michigan. It's done Hot Rod Power Tours, Sick Week. I drove it up to Roadkill Nights in Detroit just for one day, just to go up to I use it. I went on a road trip after I built the shop just to get away because I was going a little insane on this one piece of property, and I did like 4,000 miles all the way. I drove to QA1's place.
Just did 4,000 miles.
Yeah.
You know, no big deal.
That's when gas was $1.70, so it was a little easier.
Well, we came out to check out the El Camino, and we got a lot more than we bargained for. At least I did. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you're new, please subscribe to the channel. This is the type of stuff I love doing and recording, so I hope you stick around for that. And if you are subscribed, I really, really appreciate you doing that. I get a notification every time I get a new subscriber, and it makes me smile because I enjoy doing this kind of stuff. I enjoy meeting people like Jacob and having a blast. So thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you on the next episode. Have a good one.